I am delighted to welcome you on behalf of Amnesty International and my own organization, the International Service for Human Rights, to the 2025 Human Rights Council pledging event. My name is Pooja. I am the Deputy Executive Director of Programs and Advocacy at ISHR. Today's event provides candidates for membership of the Human Rights Council the opportunity to provide their vision for membership and the priorities they will work on. It is also an opportunity to question candidates on their human rights records and pledges. I would like to start by extending a special thanks to Colombia and Iceland who are sponsoring this event. Their support has been essential for making this event happen. Our organizations are also grateful to Mohammed Ciseguro, Director of the Human Rights Council and Treaty Mechanism Division, for moderating this event, and to his team for supporting us in the preparation. Amnesty and ISHR have been proud to organize this event for 15 years. We are delighted that this year there are 9 candidates joining the event and all regions are represented. Elections to the Human Rights Council are often not as competitive as we would hope. This year, we have a so-called clean slate election. Non-competitive slates undermine the purpose of elections, which is to enable member states to choose the most qualified candidates over others, including through public pledges, invitation to scrutiny of their human rights record, and demonstrated human rights progress during their membership term. The next 2.5 hours will provide an opportunity for dialogue between member states and civil society. This is an important exercise in transparency and accountability. We are very happy to see once again a large number of attendees, including civil society candidates, civil society from candidate states, from across the world and time zones joining us for this event. Before we start, I just want to share some practical information. This is a virtual multilingual meeting. Today, there is live simultaneous interpretation into English, French, and Spanish. To access interpretation, please click on the interpretation button on the globe icon that you can see in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and then click on the language that you need to listen to. Interpretation is always a few seconds behind. You will also see detailed instructions for interpretation in the chat. If you cannot hear the interpretation, please write to the host, Maria from Amnesty. Please note that attendees cannot take the floor, but can use the Q&A function on Zoom to ask questions to the panelists. The moderator will give you more information on this process. This event is recorded. The recordings will be made available on the ISHR YouTube page after the end of the event. I take this opportunity to thank the team of interpreters supporting us today. Finally, let me reiterate something that we state every year during these events. The Human Rights Council's success depends on its members and their readiness to fully implement the Council's mandate set out in General Assembly Resolution 60/251. That resolution recognizes the importance of engagement and full cooperation with all stakeholders in the Council's work. And most importantly, that member states shall uphold the highest standards in promotion and protection of human rights. So without further ado, let me wish all state candidates good luck for this event. And Mr. Moderator, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Pooja, and a sincere thanks to Amnesty International and the International Service for Human Rights for organizing this event. That's also thanking the co-sponsors, Colombia and Iceland. As Pooja said, my name is Mohammed Ciseguro. I'm the Director for the Council and Treaty Mechanism Division at OECHR. I will be your moderator. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, I'm delighted to welcome you to the 2025 Human Rights Council pledging event. Today's event provides candidates for membership of the Human Rights Council for the term 2026-2028, an opportunity to present their vision for membership and the priorities they will work towards if elected. It is also an opportunity for our stakeholders to ask candidates questions about the human rights record, but also the pledges. OECHR is pleased to have been associated with this event for several years, which represents an important opportunity for dialogue between stakeholders and to promote transparency and accountability. All 14 candidates of all 14 candidate states who are invited to join us today. I wish to extend sincere thanks to the 9 candidates who accepted the invitation to join us, namely Chile, Ecuador, Estonia, Italy, Mauritius, Pakistan, Slovenia, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. I applaud their willingness to participate in a spirit of transparency and accountability. 5 candidates either declined to participate or did not respond to the invitation. They are Egypt, India, Iraq, Tunisia, and Vietnam. This session will be divided into 3 segments. The first segment, which is the opening segment, each candidate state has been asked to outline in 2 minutes. I know those are members of the council already can do a powerful statement in less than 2 minutes, but in 2 minutes, what they hope to achieve through the member chief, both at the national but also at the international levels as well. If you exceed 2 minutes, will be gently reminded to wrap up. You will see the clock on the screen, and once the 2 minutes is up, the microphone will be muted. In the second segment, we will open the floor for questions from the audience. Questions will be also taken from both the Twitter account using the hashtag HRC Pledges 2025 and the Zoom Q&A. We will be taking general questions directed to all states, as well as questions directed to specific states, including those participating in today's event and those that are not joining us today. Please ensure that any question made in the Q&As include the name of the candidate state they are addressed to, or all states. If addressed to all states, please also mention the name of the organization you are representing, or your name. If you are participating in an individual capacity, in case of security concern, however, questions can be asked anonymously. In the third segment, to ensure the greatest opportunity for engagement between candidate states and the audience, we urge candidates to be short and concise in their response, not exceeding this time 2.5 minutes, meaning 150 seconds. A timer will be displayed on screen to facilitate time management. Once the 2.5 minutes is up, the sound will be heard and your microphone will be muted. So once you have boom, boom, meaning microphone is muted. If there's more questions shared than time available, any questions shared that are not asked during this event will be collated and forwarded to the respective candidates and also posted online. Before we turn to the candidate state for their opening statement, with your permission, I would like to give the floor to the co-sponsor for the opening remark. I now kindly invite Ambassador Einar Gunnarsson, permanent representative of Iceland, to make some brief opening remark. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, moderator, and let me also start by thanking Amnesty International and ISHR for organizing this online pledging event. It is Iceland's pleasure to be co-sponsoring today along with Colombia. Iceland is honored to sit on the Human Rights Council for the term 2025 through 2027. Membership of the Council is a responsibility we take very seriously. Human rights are a key pillar of our foreign policy and an essential element of our international development partnerships. As such, Iceland actively participates in multilateral fora to promote and protect human rights and address human rights violations and abuses. Protecting and promoting the fundamental principles of equal and indisputable rights of all human beings has never been more important. During our membership, Iceland will focus on 5 main themes and the interlinkages between them, namely strengthening unity around core principle of human rights, gender equality, LGBTQI+ rights, children and youth, and the environment and human rights. Now, as we are well into our first year as members of the Council, I want to briefly reflect on last year's pledging event, where states hoping to be elected to the Council were asked to envisage how they would look back at their term after serving on the Council. For Iceland, we hope that we will be able to contribute towards increased cooperation and dialogue in the Council. We also believe more countries should be encouraged to serve on the Human Rights Council, big and small, and representing the diversity of the world. That is essential in order to expand the Council's reach and impact, and Iceland will in particular remain an advocate for the participation of small states from across the globe. Small states can not only participate, but also make a difference. Furthermore, we aim to be able to look back on our voluntary pledge and say that we succeeded in strengthening understanding and acceptance of some of the core values Iceland holds and is determined to highlight during our membership of the Council. I thank all candidate states for participating in today's event, and I applaud Amnesty International and ISHR for their continued commitment in organizing this event once again. It is an honor for Iceland to be invited to co-sponsor this important exchange. In Iceland, we know well the impact and work of civil society. Our advancement, for example, in gender equality was driven in large part by the grassroots women groups that continue to this day to work with the government in everything from service delivery to policy recommendations. The benefit of cooperation with civil society is therefore very clear to us. One of the key strengths of the Human Rights Council is its engagement with civil society and active contribution of civil society makes to the Council's work. Finally, we look forward to working with those of you, well, hopefully all of you, as it is a clean slate, that will be elected to the Council. Together, we can ensure that the Council remains effective and efficient, having positive impact on the right holders on the ground. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your statement. We'll now begin our discussion with the candidates. Just to remind again that each candidate will have the opportunity in this segment to state what they hope to achieve to the Human Rights Council membership, both at the national and international levels. So we will proceed with candidate state in alphabetical order. Let me again remind all of you that you have 2 minutes for this initial statement. I already urge each state to please stay within the time limit, and please be reminded that intervention that goes over will be muted. So I would like now to invite the distinguished representative of Chile, Ambassador Thomas Pascual, Director of the Human Rights Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to take the floor. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, Mahamane, y también a quienes han organizado esta actividad.
And thank you very much for organizing this conference. Chile is standing for re-election to the Human Rights Council. History of Council, and Chile's goals are very closely aligned to the principles of foreign policy in our country. Human rights form a core part of our foreign policy. Chile is very dedicated to multilateralism. It firmly believes in the defense and promotion of human rights. We understand that human rights discussions are sometimes complex. Nonetheless, the United Nations provides a space to discuss these complexities in this very special forum. Therefore, Chile would like to bring to this forum the elements that we've been working on over the past few years in terms of state policy, addressing inequalities, and including civil and political rights with economic, social, and cultural rights, caring for the environment, is a key part of that as well. We believe that the Human Rights Council helps to promote good practices that Chile has established already. We've made great strides towards improving human rights in our country, and we also believe that it helps to bring new elements into these discussions. We, as Chile, wishes to remain an active stakeholder. We want to promote human rights, and we want to really make the most of this forum. which will help us to achieve peace and security in the long term. Thank you.
On time. Thanks very much, Ambassador. I now would like to invite the distinguished representative of Ecuador, Ambassador Marcelo Vázquez Bermudez, permanent representative of Ecuador to the UN in Geneva, to take the floor. Ambassador Vázquez will be followed by the distinguished representative of Estonia. So, Ambassador Vázquez, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor moderador,
Thank you very much,
excelencias.
Moderator. Excellencies, Ecuador has submitted its candidacy to the Human Rights Council for the 2026 to 2028 period on the basis of its historic position defending and promoting human rights. In 2006, we were involved in the creation of the Human Rights Council as one of its 47 founding members, and we were on the Council on 2 later occasions. We've always worked towards strengthening the Human Rights Council based on our sense of responsibility. We've also led relevant initiatives that now form part of the consolidated agenda of the Council. Ecuador is fully committed to guaranteeing human rights, peace, and respect for international law. This stance is constantly sustained, and this is also a sign of our foreign policy, which also is based on protecting constitutional rights and fundamental freedoms. We firmly support multilateralism, dialogue, and international cooperation. Ecuador reaffirms its commitment to continue working in transparency with all member states, as well as with international human rights organizations, civil society, and other relevant stakeholders. As a member of the Council, Ecuador will continue to defend democratic values and principles and promoting the need to consider the interlinkages between peace, security, and human rights, and also as linked to development, which is closely linked to human rights. We hope that as a member, we will contribute to promoting human rights, ensuring that the Council can provide effective responses to global challenges, and we will always fight for dignity and the principle of leaving no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for the statement. It's now my pleasure to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Estonia, Ambassador Ria Salsa, different permanent representative of Estonia to the UN and the other international organization to be followed by Ambassador Salsa.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, let me thank for today's event. I'm pleased to be part of it. The promotion and protection of human rights is Estonia's national priority and an integral part of Estonia's foreign policy. Due to our history, Estonia still remembers what it was like to live under occupation and with severe restrictions on human rights. We know that without human rights, there is no stability, equality, and no democracy. This is why we know how important it is to safeguard the promotion and protection of human rights. The Human Rights Council has a central role in global standard setting on human rights. Despite all challenges the entire system is facing at the moment, Estonia will continue to be a vocal advocate of the effectiveness, stronger impact, and higher visibility of the HRC and the entire human rights system. Estonia's main priorities as a member of the Council, if elected, are protection and promotion of children's rights, enhancing human rights online, and upholding media freedom. We will also continue focusing on rights of all women and girls. This is a fundamental human rights issue, but also essential for building an inclusive and resilient society. On national level, we are convinced that the membership of the Human Rights Council gives further impetus to the advancement of national policies and safeguards. The preparations for the Council memberships have already allowed us to take several important steps very recently. We ratified this summer the optional protocols of CEDAW and rights of the child on communications procedure. So to conclude, as a strong supporter of effective multilateralism and universal values, Estonia, as a member of the Human Rights Council, will advocate for a strong HR pillar of the UN, advance human rights at home by living up to our pledges and demonstrating high standards, and stand for the universality of human rights, putting individuals in the center of our work and ensuring accountability. I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Just on time. Okay, next I would like to invite the distinguished representative of Italy, Mr. Stefano Pisotti, Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy to the UN and other international organizations in Geneva, to take the floor. Mr. Stefano, you have the floor.
Thank you, moderator. Italy welcomes the opportunity to participate in this event, and thanks the organizers and the co-sponsors. The Italian Constitution, which is coeval with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognizes and guarantees the inviolability of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Italy is therefore constitutionally committed to integrating human rights into law, policies, and practices. As a long-standing supporter of the role of the Human Rights Council and the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, Italy's direct contribution to the Council's activities will aim at sustaining and fostering all existing mechanisms through dialogue and cooperation among member states. Let me now briefly recall some of our voluntary pledges and commitments. The universal moratorium of the death penalty is and will continue to be a top priority of Italy in all international fora, and we intend to use our membership of the Human Rights Council to advance this goal. Italy will sustain all efforts to eradicate racism, xenophobia, intolerance, and all forms of discrimination, including when based on religion and belief, sexual orientation, and gender. We will confirm our commitment to ensure women's rights, including our long-standing engagement for the eradication of female genital mutilation and early and forced marriage. Italy will support the work of the Council and its subsidiary bodies to protect and further promote the rights of children, especially those at risk of poverty and social exclusion, victims of violence and exploitation in conflict and post-conflict situations, and in the digital environment, as well as the rights of persons with disabilities and older persons, and the rights of minorities. My country is also committed to protect the space for civil society and to support human rights defenders. I look forward to hearing your comments and to answering your questions. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pisotti, for your statement. And I would like to invite the distinguished representative of Mauritius, His Excellency Brian L. Joseph Glover, Permanent Representative of Mauritius to the United Nations in Geneva, to take the floor. Ambassador Glover.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting Mauritius to this very, very interesting event. Being a candidate for the HRC shows the unflinching commitment of Mauritius to uphold, promote, and protect human rights as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international human rights treaties, and the customary international law. This commitment of Mauritius is enshrined in its constitution, with the whole second chapter thereof being devoted to the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. Having built a society for almost half a century based on democracy, integrity, rule of law, and the protection of human rights, makes Mauritius now being constantly ranked very high on relevant international human rights indexes. We have undertaken several pledges in the context of our candidature. At national level, we are committed to further strengthen our human rights framework, and additional measures and reform will be taken. We'll continue promoting gender equality, empowerment of women, combat all forms of violence, and will continue to advocate for the protection of the rights and equal participation of persons with disabilities and take measures appropriate. We pledge to combat trafficking exploitation of persons by taking appropriate measures, and at international level, we undertake to support initiatives to promote peace, democracy, human rights, and cultural diversity, work towards achieving gender equality, advancement of the rights of children, persons with disabilities, and empowerment of women. And finally, continue as a small island developing state to support multilateral cooperation for sustainable development and link environment with human rights. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks to you, Ambassador, for your statement. The floor will now go to the distinguished representative of Pakistan, Mr. Mohammed Jawad Ajmal, Consular Permanent Mission of Pakistan to the UN. Mohammed, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, dear members of the civil society, Pakistan's candidature for the Human Rights Council represents not merely an aspiration, but our firm commitment to the global human rights. Our commitment to the human rights is as old as the country. From a pivotal role that we played in drafting of the UDHR to successive delegations contributing meaningfully to the drafting of various international instruments to serving in the Human Rights Council for 5 times previously. If elected, Pakistan aims to continue this rich legacy during the upcoming HRC term 2026-28. Pakistan values its engagement with the civil society organizations and aims to strengthen it further during its tenure. During the past decade, we have enacted nearly 70 laws impacting rights of women, children, minorities, persons with disabilities, journalists, and transgender persons. We have also strengthened safeguards against torture, custodial deaths, ratified key maritime and labor conventions, and enshrined right to environment as a fundamental right in our constitution. Pakistan's institutions, human rights institutions, are coming of age. The National Commission of Human Rights has received A-status from GANRI last year, with specialized commissions to protect women, children, and persons in vulnerable situations operating separately. Pakistan has consistently engaged constructively with relevant treaty bodies and special procedures, supported OHCHR, and accepted a large majority of UPR recommendations from its 4th cycle. Pakistan submitted its mid-term UPR implementation report this year. I'm also pleased to inform that Pakistan is already exploring visit of several special procedure mandate holders to Pakistan in the near future. Pakistan aims to continue to play a constructive role by building bridges across regions, including in our capacity as the OIC coordinator. Lastly, I wish to underscore Pakistan seeks your support, not just as a perfect state, but as a state committed to its journey in strengthening human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. According to the alphabetical order approach, the next should be the ambassador of Slovenia. We are not yet online. So allow me to go straight to the distinguished representative of South Africa, Ambassador Nkosi, to make his statement. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, moderator, Brother Sise, Excellencies, colleagues, members of civil society. We join colleagues in thanking the organizers, Amnesty and the ISHR, for organizing this event. And we also salute the distinguished delegations of Colombia and Iceland for co-sponsoring this event. South Africa is indeed honored to participate in this important dialogue, and we reaffirm our unwavering commitment to the promotion and protection of human rights, both at home and abroad, particularly in the current climate where we see pushback against human rights. Our vision for Human Rights Council membership is rooted in our Constitution, which enshrines the indivisibility of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. We believe that human dignity is not negotiable, and that equality and non-discrimination must be the foundation of all societies. At the national level, we aim to intensify our efforts to combat gender-based violence, advance the rights of children, and ensure access to education, health, justice for all. We're committed to strengthening the South African Human Rights Commission and deepening democratic participation, especially among youth and marginalized communities. Internationally, South Africa will champion the universality of human rights, will continue to advocate for the rights of intersex persons, the fight against racism, racial discrimination, and xenophobia, and accountability for violations wherever they occur. We'll also work to ensure the conduct of rights. We stand ready to engage with civil society and member states in a spirit of solidarity and shared purpose. Our pledge is simple: to make human rights real and meaningful for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your statement. Next on the list of candidates, the United Kingdom, and I would like to invite Ambassador Eleanor Sanders, United Kingdom Global Human Rights Ambassador, to take the floor. Ambassador, you have the floor. Ambassador Elena Sanders? No?
Can you?
Yes, Ambassador,
you
can see. Yes.
Can you hear me?
You can hear me.
Thank you. I just said thank you very much for the opportunity. We welcome this initiative and we welcome the scrutiny. But very simply, the UK is a committed advocate for human rights. We see the Human Rights Council as the best forum we have to protect and promote human rights around the world. And we have been one of the biggest donors consistently to the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, reflecting again our commitment. We've also remained active at the Council, despite being an observer for the last couple of years. But if elected, we will redouble that engagement with a focus on practical action and real-world impact. To recap our pledges, we have outlined 4 very broad areas of work which we view as important. Number 1, civic space and fundamental freedoms, both nationally and internationally. Number 2, rule of law. We've led on a number of initiatives at the Human Rights Council to promote justice and accountability in particular, and we see this as really important, working where possible with countries concerned to promote reconciliation and prevention of future violations. Number 3, equal rights for all. We will remain committed to ensuring discrimination is never tolerated, whether on the basis of gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, belief, or any other characteristic. And 4, new challenges, reflecting the fact that our world is constantly evolving, and our approach needs to evolve too. This is, as a number of people have said, an uncontested election, but we take it seriously, and we see this campaign as an opportunity to strengthen our relationships with other states, as well as with civil society groups. We will come to the Council in that spirit, ready to strengthen relationships, ready to listen and receive feedback, as well as to collaborate and offer feedback. You may have seen the brochure that we've been circulating, which is published in all UN languages. That's deliberate, because this for us is all about communication and understanding. We will keep doing that, if elected, across borders, across different backgrounds and perspectives. And we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, again, just on time. 2 minutes, we are already time. I was just informed that Ambassador Anita Pipan from Slovenia is with us now, so with your permission, without any further ado, we'll give the floor to Ambassador Pipan for a statement. Ambassador, you have the floor. Ambassador Anita Pipan from Slovenia. I can see, Ambassador, the microphone is mute on your side.
Okay.
Yes, Ambassador? Yes.
Good afternoon and good morning to New York, and sorry, moderator. We have been here all along, but it seems we have some technical problems. Thank you so much for organizing this exchange. Our third candidacy or our third time membership for the Human Rights Council candidacy stems from the conviction that the human rights are non-negotiable foundation of human dignity. Yet we are very much aware that they are not enjoyed equally by all. This failure is starkly evident in the horrors of many ongoing conflicts, Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, to name a few. As UN member states, we hold collective responsibility for respect and accountability for human rights violations. My country believes that lasting progress in that regard depends on dialogue and building trust. Our human rights priorities are born from this, and they are advancing gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, safeguarding the rights of children, protecting older persons, promoting minority rights, ensuring that human rights education remains at the heart of building inclusive societies. Last but not least, championing for the human right to clean, healthy, sustainable environment. Slovenia is a party to most of the international human rights instruments. We are a strong supporter of independence of the Office of the High Commissioner and its appropriate funding, principled consistent and accountable human rights pillar is a necessity in today's fragmented world. We strongly believe in the necessity of partnerships with civil society, academia, and other stakeholders. To all the civil society partners, your work ensures our accountability. We are looking forward to closing the human rights protection gaps and uphold dignity, equality, and justice for all. Last but not least, in times of increasing geopolitical tensions, Slovenia will always choose to respond not with disengagement, but with a reaffirmed commitment to human rights, the inherent birthright of every human being on this planet. I'm looking forward to today's exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your statement. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank all the candidates for this initial statement. So this concludes the first segment, or the second segment actually. We will now present some questions to candidates from the audience. In order to make the best use of the time available, we kindly request you to send concise questions to allow as many members of the audience as possible to contribute. Candidates will have 2.5 minutes this time, not 2 minutes only, but 2.5 minutes to respond. Once the 2.5 minutes is up, again, a sound will be heard and the microphone will be muted. So the first round of questions will be posed in the reverse alphabetical order this time to state. So we'll take the first 3 questions from the audience in the first group of questions. The first question is addressed to United Kingdom. It's from the United Group for Reform of Indeterminate Sentence for Public Protection, IPP. And I read the question. In 2023, the United Kingdom government refused to act on the Justice Select Committee recommendations to resentence all people imprisoned under an indefinite imprisonment of public protection. Early this year, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture affirmed the experience of those detained under IPP sentences by stating that the sentences amount to psychological torture. How will the UK government address this human rights concern, including abolishing the sentence retrospectively and committing to a resentencing exercise to drastically reduce the number of people serving an IPP sentence in recognition of strong link to self-harm and suicide? So this is a question from United Group for Reform of Indeterminate Sentence for Public Protection to the United Kingdom. The second question is addressed to South Africa from NHRIs for Sustainable Development. And the question is as follows, and I read. How will South Africa advance climate justice at the Human Rights Council and ensure that the voices of our communities most affected by climate changes, especially in the global south, are meaningfully included in decision-making? The third question is addressed to Slovenia from a human rights defender. How does Slovenia plan to advance gender equality and assure the protection of women and girls from all forms of violence and discrimination, including in conflict zones? End of question. So those are the 3 questions. Let us take the answers from the 3 concerned countries in reverse order. So starting from UK. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me again now? Great. So thank you for the question, which, as you will have gathered, is about quite a niche issue. So perhaps I will try and unpack it a little bit for our wide audience. Essentially, this question relates to something referred to as imprisonment or detention for public protection that has been in place for a number of years in the UK, but as highlighted by your questioner, has been controversial. And the first thing to say is that this government supports efforts to change the way in which what is referred to as IPP and DPP sentences are managed. It's right that those sentences now have been abolished through some changes made in legislation brought in 2024 when this government was in opposition, but this is legislation which this government supported. Essentially, that legislation brings forward measures which make it easier for those sentences to be reduced or abolished as quickly as possible. But this needs to be done in a managed way. And the name of this this mechanism, imprisonment or detention for public protection, is important to rest on, because there will be sentences included in this which do not qualify for early release or abolition. For example, those convicted for sexual offences or offences of a particularly violent nature, and that is, as the name suggests, for public protection. So while the government supports efforts to abolish those sentences and make it easier for them, for their early termination to be expedited, this does have to be managed in a case-by-case focused way. Any wholesale resentencing exercise, which is essentially what the Justice Select Committee called for, would result in most of those still serving sentences to be released without any licence supervision, which goes against our number one interest in all of our justice and home affairs issues, which is public protection. So to reiterate, we are determined to make more progress on this, but we will not and cannot take any measure that would put the public at risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your answer to the question. We now go to Ambassador of South Africa for his reaction to the question. Ambassador Nkosi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator, and thanks for the question. Indeed, this is a very pertinent question. South Africa will continue to advocate for climate justice, particularly for communities in the global south and in the African continent in particular, who face the most disproportionate impact of climate change. So this is one of the issues that we will advance in the context of our membership to the Human Rights Council, because we believe that it is an essential component, indeed an essential part of human rights, particularly for communities that are afflicted by climate change as a result of, for example, food insecurity, which has been a constant part of the African continent for a long time, in terms of its impact on the unpredictable weather patterns, as well as a result of climate change. In South Africa, for example, subsistence agriculture is one of the imperatives segments in our economy, and it remains a substantial sector for livelihood generation. The recent severe weather patterns resulting in droughts and floods on the back ends of El Nino and El Nina phenomenon in our region have led to, amongst others, a decreased drop in crop yields, loss of livestock, soaring food prices, as well as vector and waterborne diseases growing in frequency and intensity. In this regard, as South Africa, we've established the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan as an inclusive social compact by government, labor, business, and civil society organizations intended at building a growing and equitable, inclusive and competitive job-creating, low-carbon and sustainable agriculture and agro-processing sector. These efforts, amongst others, we believe will go a long way in ensuring that we alleviate the impacts of climate change and that we're able to respond decisively to the effects of climate change. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you, Ambassador Nkosi. It's my pleasure now to give the floor to the Ambassador of Slovenia, but there is a question raised by the Human Defender.
Thank you very much for focusing on women's rights and women empowerment. Let me start by the conviction, a very strong foreign policy priority on women and gender equality. Seeing the global pushback on women's rights, of course, is very worrisome. And we are very much committed to working with different partnerships and with different stakeholders to ensure that women have a voice, that women have rights, because this really we see is a prerequisite for resilient, peaceful and inclusive societies. We are celebrating anniversary of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, and WPS agenda is high on our mind currently in the UN Security Council, but also during our observership in the Human Rights Council and then future membership. We very much believe that sustainable peace is impossible without meaningful participation of women. We are currently in the Security Council championing the inclusion of gender analysis in all peacekeeping mandates. We are working very closely with United Nations Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund, a global initiative that provides funding and capacity building support to local women's organizations working on peace building and humanitarian action. Advancing women's rights in conflict and crisis affected regions is one of the areas that we will put particular attention to, and women and girls and their empowerment will be included both in country-specific engagement as well as the broader engagement on other thematic mandates in the Human Rights Council. Okay.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for the information. Let me again thank the distinguished representative of UK, South Africa, and Slovenia for your answers. We'll now move to the second group of 3 questions, and I will read them for you. The next question is addressed to Pakistan. The question is coming from a human rights defender wishing to remain anonymous for security reasons. So the question reads as follows. In Pakistan, despite the presence of human rights laws and institutions, we continue to witness systemic failures in implementation, including in areas like child marriage, forced conversions, and gender-based violence. What will Pakistan do during its HRC membership to move beyond paperwork and take measurable action at the provincial and grassroots level? The next is addressed to Mauritius, and the question is from the Nubian Center for Peace and Democracy. And the question reads as follows. Despite numerous resolutions, including those issued by the UN Human Rights Council and the Security Council, grave human rights violations in Sudan remain unaddressed. If elected to the Human Rights Council, what concrete steps will Mauritius take to ensure accountability, including effective follow-up and enforcement mechanisms? The third of the second group of the question is addressed to Italy, and it's from the Legal Center for Protection of Human Rights and the Environment. And the question reads as follows: how will Italy address human rights concerns related to migration and asylum seekers at its borders and in the Mediterranean? And how will it advocate for migrants' rights internationally if elected to the Council? So those are the three next questions, and with your permission, Excellencies, I will give the floor first to Pakistan to answer to the question asked by the Human Defenders. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Hi, I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Well, let me begin by thanking our anonymous friend. And Pakistan has a long tradition of human rights defenders who have made a name for themselves, and Pakistan is proud as a country for their contribution to the human rights system as well. It would have been, given the fact that our media is free and human rights defenders in Pakistan have full freedom and constitutional protections to speak their mind, I would welcome our anonymous colleague to share their name as well. Nevertheless, two very important issues have been raised. As I spoke in my comments earlier, that no country has a perfect human rights record. It's a journey. We are all in that journey, and there are areas, social ills and gaps that as honest colleagues we must accept, and we must continue to work on those. Child marriage is one such gap. And on this, Pakistan has in the past years been making strides in strengthening its legal architecture for a first. We are a country with 4 federating units. The South Sindh province has already established a law on it. Islamabad has recently passed a law on minimum age. Punjab, which must point out has a woman chief minister, is already in process of drafting a law. We have an independent National Human Rights Commission that works very diligently to investigate cases that come to light. This is in addition to their reporting in the media or resort to the courts if the need be. Separately, these issues have been raised with our delegations in the Universal Periodic Review and in the treaty bodies as well, and we have very confidently engaged the human rights mechanism on it. I think there was a reference to gender-based violence as well. Pakistan has established specific gender-based violence courts to have a focused judicial effort on it. Shall I continue or should I conclude?
Yeah, it's like at the council, the time is off. Time is up, Ambassador. But thanks already for the element, the answer that you have provided. Without any further ado, let me go to His Excellency the Ambassador of Mauritius to address the question raised by Nubian Center for Peace and Democracy. Ambassador Glover.
Thank you very much, and I thank the author of this question and gives us the opportunity to clarify a few points. Mauritius is obviously deeply concerned by the human rights violations in other countries, especially in the brother and sister countries of our African continent. We believe that peace and stability are very much essential, if not of paramount importance, because they contain the components to ensure that protection and promotion of human rights are at all times preserved. The African Union is taking a number of initiatives to resolve the issue in Sudan, as well as other African countries. Mauritius fully supports, unflinchingly, unwaveringly, all these initiatives, and we will as a member of the Human Rights Council, work relentlessly with Sudan to ensure that a solution is found on that issue. And therefore, the Human Rights Council and its next members ought to relentlessly continue engaging actively, proactively, and on a consensus basis with our brother nation, Sudan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Let me now go to the distinguished representative of Italy for his intervention. Excellency, I will talk.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you for the floor, and thank you for the question, which is very relevant. It gives me the opportunity to say that Italy follows a comprehensive and we think balanced approach towards migration. Of course, I mean, we recognize the important contribution of regular migrants. The regular migrants make to our societies and to our economy. So we are very much engaged in ensuring a governance of migration that is increasingly effective and sustainable, and ensuring also the full respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, regardless of their migratory status. We follow a three-pronged approach. The first let's say, action that we take is to tackle the root causes of irregular migration through development initiatives, economic investments, and stabilization efforts in the countries of origin and transit. The second one, but it's at least as important, it's tackling smugglers and traffickers of persons. Human trafficking is a heinous human rights violation. So we are very keen in countering this phenomenon in partnership with our with other countries and with our partners. And of course, we also promote safe and regular pathways for migration through labor pathways, educational pathways, in order to increase also the quota of regular migrants that contribute to our societies. So, and this, let's say, commitment at the national level is also reflected in our international commitments, and of course it will be reflected in our commitment to the Human Rights Council if elected. We are really keen on ensuring that migrants will have their rights upheld, and that there's no discrimination against them, so that they can enjoy fully of their rights and their fundamental freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. We'll now move to the third group of questions, and I will read them again. The first of this third segment question is addressed to Estonia, and the question is from the Legal Center for the Protection of Human Rights and the Environment. And it reads as follows. As a leader in digital governance, how will Estonia address the human rights impact of artificial intelligence, online privacy, and digital surveillance, both domestically and in the multilateral forum? The next question is for Ecuador, from an anonymous human rights defender. And the question reads as follows. How does the Ecuadorian state intend to defend the right of indigenous people, nationalities, and the Afro-descendant people at the Human Rights Council, when at the national level, land and territories continue to be exploited through extractive activities without prior consultation. Leaders face persecution, several ancestral languages are being lost, and structural discriminations. The third question of this third group is addressed to Chile, and it's from Human Rights Watch. And the question reads as follows. Chile has engaged actively at the Human Rights Council, but at home, migrants and asylum seekers face racism and laws enabling expedited expulsion. What will Chile do to ensure migrant rights are protected at home? And it's from Human Rights Watch. So those are the two questions, one for Estonia, Ecuador, and Chile. So without any further ado, let me go to the distinguished ambassador from Estonia for feedback on this question, the first question. Ambassador,
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the very pertinent question. Indeed, the new technologies are coming so quickly that we have a difficulty in global terms how to tackle and be assured that it also follows rights and norms. But the question is for Estonia extremely important. So we have been, as it was mentioned in the question also, we have been following these topics very closely for years, and being one of the governments that is fully online. Also, the security parts and ethical parts of the new developments are extremely important to us. So what we do concretely, we have been, for instance, leading this year the Freedom Online coalition, and also through these kind of networks and coalitions, we are advancing standards on AI and human rights. There was a text very recently that was adopted by the FOC network. Also, in the Human Rights Council, of course, I mean the topic is very relevant. In recent years, it has been coming up in many discussions, and Estonia, as a member of the council, will put even more emphasis and effort on different thematic engagement reflections, what we can do as a global community in order to assure that the ethical and normative human rights normative perspective is also assured. So one thing that I want to mention also is that the entire development, the AI, but also other new technologies, they have both positive and negative impact. So we shouldn't be concentrating only perhaps on the threats and challenges, but also try to see a little bit the advances that these new technologies will bring to us. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So without any further ado, let me go to the Ambassador of Ecuador to answer to the question raised by the Human Rights Defender. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the question. El Ecuador es un país mega diverso y plurinacional.
Ecuador is an extremely diverse, multinational country, according to its constitution, which specifically sets out the rights of nature, peoples, and nationalities. This normative framework is part of our nation to put this in practice. Particularly, we recognize the fundamental role of environmental defenders and indigenous defenders, and we therefore continue supporting initiatives to try and to consolidate mechanisms for prevention, protection, and coordination among institutions to make sure that human rights defenders can carry out their work without fear of reprisals. As a member of the Council, Ecuador will continue to promote effective implementation of the right to a clean environment. We will also promote the linkages between human rights and the environment, and we will also drive towards better international cooperation to protect the most vulnerable communities to environmental impacts, including economic activity. Our aim is that the defense of the environment and the rights of indigenous peoples should not be seen as an obstacle, but as an indispensable part of promotion and protection of peace and sustainability. Ecuador that safe civic space must be multifaceted, and this is essential to the quality of democracy. We recognize the contributions of human rights defenders from indigenous peoples and nationalities, and we also value the contributions of all stakeholders that contribute to promoting human rights for peace and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for these elements. The floor goes now to Ambassador Pascual from Chile. Ambassador Pascual, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias nuevamente por
Thank you
darme la
very much
palabra.
again for having given me the floor. I'd also like to thank Human Rights Watch for the question.
Que dice relación cómo lo hace o cómo pretende hacerlo Chile justamente a nivel
The question is, how does Chile take action internally to tackle racism
a personas en contextos de movilidad humana
and people that find themselves in the context of human mobility, and also that they've referred to expulsion processes. Up until 2022, Chile had a regulation on migration that dated from 1975 during the military dictatorship. Over the past few years now, Chile has been adopting democratic laws as part of our political system with national participation. Now, these steps and these new laws have now explicitly recognized these rights in the preamble and in the operative part. We have adopted a law in line with international rights and standards, particularly as regards expulsion procedures. And there is now better improved judicial review. In Chile, a great deal of case law has been taken into account to ensure the protection of the rights of asylum seekers and also to make sure that the state acts in a legal manner. In Chile, we have made substantive progress on these matters. When it comes to asylum seekers, we have a new law that dates from back to 2010, and some amendments have been made to deal with various critical issues related to international law. Now, of course, this is a broader phenomenon. Recently, in the past few years, Chile has received 3 times the migrant population that it received in previous years. And now this means that policies need to be adjusted over time, and policy can always be improved. Chile is fully committed to moving forwards and making sure that we have full multilateral engagement to make sure that we can improve our legal standards to protect everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Excellencies, with your permission, we'll now move to the 4th group of questions. And this time, it's questions that relates to state, not present. So let me just share some of the questions with you. The first question of this kind is from Vietnam. It's from the Vietnamese Human Rights Network. It reads as follows. Vietnam has received communications from special procedure concerning escalating repression that may come indigenous people in Vietnam, and the working group on arbitrary detention issued an opinion and prisoners of conscience currently detained in the country. How will the government implement the recommendations? The next is addressed to Tunisia from NHRIs for Sustainable Development. And the question reads as follows. What concrete steps will Tunisia take to reverse the shrinking civic space and to guarantee the independence of human rights institutions and civil society organizations? The next is to Iraq, and it's from Al-Muaik Organization for Human Rights. And the question reads as follows. What specific steps will Iraq follow to address torture? The following one is for India, and it's from NHRIs for Sustainable Development, and it reads as follows. How will India ensure the protection of minorities and human rights defenders, particularly those advocating for women's rights, environmental rights, and freedom of expression, and freedom from harassment and arbitrary detention? The following one is for Egypt, and it's from Baha'i International Community. And it reads as follows. As a Human Rights Council candidate, how will Egypt address the systematic denial of marriage registration for Baha'i under Article 134, which leads to intergenerational civil and legal violations, including risk of statelessness, disinheritance, denial of birth certificates, and restricted access to education, healthcare, and residence rights. So those are questions that were addressed to the some of the candidate states that are not present in this meeting this afternoon. Now let us move to the round two, and this time it will be in alphabetical order, and I will read the first three questions again. The first one goes to Chile, and it's from Project on Organizations Development Education Research, ODER. What are your plans, Chile? What are your plans for collaboration among Latin American states to protect human rights and the environment in the context of business and investment activities, with special attention to indigenous and peasant community and civil society participation? The following question is addressed to Ecuador from an Ecuadorian human rights defender wishing to remain anonymous for security reasons. And the question reads as follows. How will Ecuador ensure respect for judicial independence and separation of power at the HRC with recent allegations highlighted by the UN Special Rapporteur and the independence of judges and lawyers regarding threats by high-ranking officials calling for demonstrations against the Constitutional Court and the President of the National Assembly, calling the judges, I quote, enemy of the people? The third question of this round is addressed to Estonia, and it's from Human Rights Watch. And it reads as follows. Estonia has supported civil society access at the UN when some governments have pushed to shrink it, mostly targeting human rights groups. Yet, Estonia has gone against calls by civil society groups, as it was one of the European countries to announce their intent to leave the mine ban treaty, which put their own civilians at risk, and walk back years of progress to eradicate these indiscriminate weapons. As Estonia runs for a seat at the UN Human Rights Council, will it reconsider its withdrawal, which will take effect in December, and instead invest in measures to keep civilians away from mined areas, caring for landmine victims, and promoting mine clearance? Those are the first three questions of the second round, and with your permission, we'll give the floor to Ambassador Pascual from Chile to answer to the questions. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias nuevamente, Mahamane.
Thank you very much once again, Mahamane.
Bueno, Chile ha sido un activo
Chile
partícipe
has always been an
y
active
promotor
participant and
de
promoter
una dimensión vinculada a los derechos económicos, sociales y
of
culturales.
economic, social, and cultural
Junto a
rights.
Colombia, el año 2023,
Together with Colombia in 2023, we requested the Inter-American Court of Human Rights for a preliminary opinion.
De la Convención Americana vinculada a esta opinión consultiva que fue
And
recientemente
this
anunciada por
opinion was recently issued
un
by the
esfuerzo
Inter-American
justamente por
Court.
tratar de ir
And this
desarrollando
was
estándares
an effort to try
vinculados a
to
obligaciones que son
set
jurídicamente
standards
vinculantes
required
frente
to legally
también a los
binding
países y a los
standards.
estados, algunos lineamientos que le permitan cumplir mejor con sus obligaciones.
And of course, the idea of this was to make sure that states could better fulfill their obligations to the environment. And of course, there is, this is linked to the extractive industries. So efforts are being made together with Colombia in this area
A esta categoría de derecho. Otro elemento que está
related to this type of rights.
con la participación
Also, on
de
this
Chile
basis,
en la discusión del tratado jurídicamente vinculante sobre empresas transnacionales y
there
derechos
have been discussions on transnational companies, and there's been talk about a binding treaty on this.
siendo amigo del chair, que es Ecuador justamente quien conduce esta.
Now, of course, we've been working together with Ecuador and in various different discussions about promoting a vision that involves better including regional perspectives, because there isn't regional standards at the moment. Now,
se pueden ir encontrando o diseñando a partir de determinados estándares interamericanos.
Based on all of these inter-American standards, we're trying to adopt a common position. And as I mentioned, there's the preliminary opinion from the court, and this will be extremely relevant in terms of how we deal with these matters, make sure these standards are aligned. We want to ensure that we can fulfill our obligations, particularly as regards indigenous peoples as well. So now we're hoping to move forward with this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. The floor goes now to Ambassador Vasquez from Ecuador. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias por la pregunta.
Thank you very much for the question. Ecuador recognizes that judicial independence is, of course, a fundamental pillar of the rule of law, and this is, of course, indispensable for full enjoyment of human rights. Our Constitution also sets out explicit guarantees for independence and transparency in the appointment of judges. We are fully committed to the rule of law and protecting and promoting human rights for all individuals. We respect the constitutional separation of powers within the state, and we also recognize the role of all public institutions in line with our legislation. We must, it's important to recognize that Ecuador and other countries in the region have faced extraordinary circumstances when it comes to security and violence and organized crime, which have reached unprecedented levels in our history. This particular context requires a balanced judicial approach that allows full protection of the rights of all individuals. Within that context, we believe it's important for all relevant stakeholders to stress the need to enhance international cooperation, tackle the various challenges posed by transnational organized crime. This also involves dealing with the interlinkages between security, justice, and judicial independence. This requires a holistic approach, coordinated at the international level based on human rights. As a candidate to the Human Rights Council, Ecuador is committed to continuing strengthening the guarantees in place for guaranteeing the impartiality of the judicial authorities. We are committed to working with civil society to ensure that best practices can help to refine our systems to select judges and to ensure judicial independence. Ecuador's participation in the Council nationally and internationally to strengthening and boosting the trust of citizens in our justice system. We also, this is also designed to consolidating the democratic system that can effectively respond to the challenges of our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Estonia. Ambassador Ria, have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you. I thank the Human Rights Watch for the question. Indeed, Estonia, together with some of our neighbors who share the border with the Russian Federation, namely Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, have decided to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention recently. And what I can tell you is that the decision to withdraw has not been taken lightly. There have been very strong consultations in the society on this topic. But unfortunately, the changing security landscape in Europe and in the Baltic Sea region has significantly deteriorated during the last couple of years, and it necessitated this step. So the decision to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention has been taken actually under the exceptional circumstances. And this is really due to the ongoing war of aggression that Russian Federation is pursuing in Ukraine, and their undiscriminate use of landmines. So on top of the humanitarian considerations as a state, we also have to see the considerations of deterrence, defense, and security of our own people. But I can assure you that Estonia continues to support the humanitarian goals of the Ottawa Convention, and namely to prevent the indiscriminate harm caused by anti-personnel landmines, and tackling all feasible precautions to protect civilians and civilian objects during the armed conflict. We also acknowledge the continuing relevance of the humanitarian objectives that are set out by the Convention. And what I can also say on this topic is that we continue to be strongly committed on international cooperation and assistance aimed at addressing the humanitarian consequences of anti-personnel mines and explosive remnants of war. And we have been contributing in 2025 to the Ottawa Implementation Support Unit. And also, I can assure you that we continue to support mine action and clearance efforts globally. Thank you.
Yes, sometime. Thank you, Ambassador. Let us proceed. I will now take another 3 questions, and the next 3 questions addressed to Italy, Pakistan, and Mauritius. So the first one addressed to Italy from the Legal Center for the Protection of Human Rights and the Environment read as follows. Italy continues to face challenges in effectively addressing domestic violence and femicide, despite recent legal reform. If elected to the Council, how will Italy strengthen its domestic response to violence against women and girls? And how will it use its seats to advance global commitment on eliminating gender-based violence? The next question is for Pakistan, and it's from a defender from the Inter-Community and Justice Organization in Afghanistan. And the question reads as follows. In light of the current situation in Afghanistan and the Taliban rule, it is important to address the grave risk faced by human rights activists and religious minorities inside Pakistan. Despite having escaped immediate danger, they now face the serious threat of deportation back to Afghanistan, a return that could mean imprisonment, abuse, or even death. What will Pakistan do to protect these vulnerable individuals? The next question is to Mauritius, addressed to Mauritius from Human Rights Watch. And it reads as follows. The Chagosian people were forcibly displaced by the United Kingdom's government to allow the United States to build a military base on their island. They continue to suffer poverty, stigma, and discrimination half a century later. The new treaty between the UK and Mauritius, which recognizes Mauritius' sovereignty over the islands, does not address justice for crimes against humanity and against Chagosians and the right to remedy for these crimes. Will Mauritius make a clear statement recognizing the Chagosians' right to return to all of the islands in the archipelago and guaranteeing their involvement in rebuilding their homeland? End of quote. I now stop here and then give the floor to the distinguished representative of Italy to answer to the question asked by the Center for Protection of the Environment. Ambassador Pisotti, you have the floor.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you also for the question. Well, the protection and the promotion of women's rights, gender equality, and women's empowerment represent key priorities for Italy, both domestically and at the international level. We have a national strategy for gender equality that is always updated and that aims to ensure that equal opportunities for development in both personal and professional are actually ensured to all women. We have, it has been pointed out, an issue that is of concern, a specific concern of femicide and violence against women that we are tackling very seriously and putting a lot of efforts, both at legislative level and also at the administrative level, in training people, officials that deals with this very serious phenomenon. So in terms of femicide, in the current legislature, a joint bicameral commission of inquiry into femicide has been established. A bill to introduce the crime of femicide has also been introduced, and different legislative initiatives are put forward to counter violence against women. I must also underline that this is also a cultural change that has to be promoted. So we are working also in schools, with civil society organizations, with society at large, to make sure that violence against women is actually, say, abolished and considered as something that is not allowed in our country. And this goes hand in hand also with our international commitments in different fora, of course, in the Human Rights Council.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Time is up. With your permission, we'll now move to the distinguished representative of Pakistan who answer to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. At the outset, I would like to underline that no country can match the generosity accorded by the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan to the brotherly people of Afghanistan. For over 4 decades, Pakistan has hosted over 4 million Afghan refugees, consistently demonstrating generosity and compassion in managing one of the world's largest and most protracted refugee situations. Afghan students, including women and female students, have benefited from fully funded scholarships and are now contributing to the welfare of Afghanistan. However, like every sovereign state, Pakistan has the right to regulate our borders. The policy of repatriation of illegal foreigners is not specific to any nationality. Afghan nationals, however, constitute the largest number of illegal aliens in Pakistan. In this regard, We are in touch with the interim government in Afghanistan, and the main purpose of the IFRP is to encourage regularized stay in Pakistan. Afghans are always welcome to come back to Pakistan, but after getting a valid visa. In this regard, Pakistan has facilitated legal avenues for Afghans to enter our country to do business, trade, commerce, education, approach our healthcare services, and so forth. So far, as per IFRP, we have returned 1.1 million Afghans since the enactment in November 2023. However, it must also be noted by all observers that during this period, around 500,000 medical visas to Afghan nationals have been issued, and similarly, Afghan citizens are given visas to come and get education, or for tourism, or for commerce or other purposes. The government, in accordance with its tradition of engaging constructively with special procedures, OHCHR, the High Commissioner for Refugees has instituted a 24/7 complaint management cell. A property committee is also functional, and Afghans' claims on property claims are being dealt by it. The government is also closely coordinating with UN agencies, and special cases referred by special procedures are being given due consideration. Lastly, we call upon the international community to support favorable conditions in Afghanistan to ensure safe and voluntary return of the displaced population. Keeping in view, we would appreciate a holistic assessment of the matter, and we request to take into account the security, development, and the human rights aspects in totality, and we call for humane treatment of all persons.
Thank you very much for your answer. Next is Ambassador Blow from Mauritius. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I thank Human Rights Watch for this question, which is, of course, of great interest to one and all. First of all, on the issue of continued discrimination regarding the Shagoshian community, may I say at the very outset that people of the Shagoshian community are, legally speaking, and considered also in practice de facto, not only de jure, but also de facto, as fully fledged citizens of Mauritius, enjoying the same rights as all the citizens of Mauritius: free access to health, education, public transport for students, elderly persons, persons with disabilities. Economic and social, political fields are also open to them. There is a Shagoshian Welfare Fund, the objects of which is the advancement and promotion of the welfare of the Shagoshian community and of their descendants. That welfare fund is chaired by a representative of the Shagoshians, duly elected by the Shagoshians themselves. Now coming to the agreement between UK and Mauritius of May 2025. It is a major landmark in the struggle for the completion of the decolonization process of Mauritius. It recognizes the sovereignty of Mauritius over the Chagos in its entirety, and also it provides for the resettlement of people in the Chagos. There is also the possibility for anyone of Mauritian citizenship, including the Shagosians, to actually visit all islands, including Diego Garcia, and such a visit is going to be at the end of the year. There is also a trust fund to the tune of £40 million for the benefit of the Shagosians. The agreement with UK, all the negotiations were held in consultation with the representative of the Shagoshian community in Mauritius. Last but not least, let it be said that the agreement has still not been ratified. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for your answers. We'll now move to the next three questions, and those next three questions are addressed to Slovenia, South Africa, and the UK, and I will give them back the floor on that order. So let us go first to the question addressed to Slovenia from Human Rights Watch. And the question read as follows. Slovenia has a strong record of supporting accountability effort for Palestine. Can Slovenia apply those standards to push the EU on China, India, Sudan, or is even actively supporting authoritarian leaders, Egypt and Tunisia, and contributing to harmful, abusive migration policies? The following question is addressed to South Africa from the African Policing Civilian Oversight Forum. And the question reads as follows. The Human Rights Council and other human rights mechanisms of the UN are increasingly addressing the issue of excessive use of force, arbitrary detention, and the criminalization of poverty. How will South Africa champion these themes during its membership, especially given the lessons learned domestically from Marikana policing of protests and the ongoing debate in the country around the decriminalization of petty offenses, sex work, and other minor non-violent crimes? The following question is for addressed to United Kingdom. It's from Hong Kong Democracy Council. And the question reads as follows. Given the growing evidence of transnational repression targeting Hong Kong and other diaspora communities in the UK, what specific steps will the UK take to ensure the protection of activists, journalists, and human rights defenders in exile? And will the UK commit to making this a priority if elected to the Human Rights Council? So those are the three questions. And as announced, we'll go first to Slovenia to hear the answer from Ambassador Pipen. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Let me reconfirm our commitment to universal respect for human rights for everyone, everywhere. Slovenia does not have double standards. We speak eloquently for all human rights violations. Within the European Union, we are engaged on all the cases that have been mentioned. I want to emphasize one area, which is the need to think about the fact that human rights go hand in hand with development cooperation, with all the efforts to achieve sustainable development goals. Human rights dialogues are cornerstones of Slovenia's bilateral and multilateral relations, and also, I believe, and I know, European Union's bilateral and multilateral relations with all the partners. And we urge all states to uphold their obligations under human rights law. The toolbox is not always the same. One area where Slovenia will also always speak up is accountability and the need to use international law for these human rights cases, if circumstances are appropriate, of course. I think a lot can be done in dialogue with many countries. As I said, development cooperation, economic relations, and dialogue. And not everything can be done in front of wider audience. Sometimes it's important also to have discussions behind closed doors. And we hear High Commissioner for Human Rights saying many times how important this kind of informal, behind the closed doors dialogues can
be effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Pipan. I now give the floor to Ambassador Nkosi for his intervention. Ambassador. Ambassador Nkosi.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much to the APCOF for their question, which is indeed a very pertinent question, because certainly we're seeing the increase in the use of excessive force and arbitrary detention in various polities, as well as the actions that are taken against poor people. And let me just indicate that from a legislative policy perspective, all these actions are unlawful in South Africa. Our Bill of Rights does guarantee the right to dignity to all our citizens, and indeed everybody is presumed innocent until determined otherwise by a competent court in our country. And of course, we try as much as possible to ensure that our law enforcement authorities use means and measures that are acceptable in terms of international standards when it comes to law enforcement. Of course, there have been instances where there has been excessive use of force, and specific remedial as well as other disciplinary measures have been taken in that regard, including, of course, the institution of commissions of inquiry. This was the case with regards to the matter that is mentioned by the APCOF that took place in Marikana. But otherwise, as a country, in terms of our commitments, we remain committed to our international obligations. And of course, we shall continue to advance in the context of the Human Rights Council and support all efforts at ending arbitrary detention, excessive use of force, and the criminalization of poverty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Without any further ado, let me give the floor to Ambassador Sanders from the UK.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
So you can hear me?
Yes.
You asked about the issue of transnational repression in the UK. As I said at the start in my introductory comments, freedom of expression and other fundamental rights are foundational to UK democracy, regardless of nationality of people in the UK. And consequently, we take the issue of transnational repression in the UK extremely seriously. We will not tolerate any attempts by foreign governments to coerce, intimidate, harass, or harm their critics overseas, particularly if they're in the UK. On this, as it relates to people from Hong Kong in particular, you may have seen we've issued several ministerial statements, including from our Foreign Secretary, strongly condemning what we now see as Hong Kong's targeting of individuals in the UK. And we've raised our concerns also at ministerial level with the Chinese authorities. The questioner asked about what we will do, what we are doing. So I can tell you that we are offering support to members of the Hong Kong community who've really relocated to the UK, who might be experiencing this unusual form of repression, or less unusual these days. That includes things like training and guidance to police and emergency responders to identify and deal properly with the phenomenon when it occurs. It includes increasing law enforcement's ability to detect this kind of criminal activity, which is perhaps not standard for us. And we've also severed ties, or we are severing ties between the UK and Hong Kong extradition systems, which again will try to sort of put a squeeze on this type of repression. So, I mean, the situation in Hong Kong, but also the way in which these transnational tactics are used, is something it's a phenomenon that we are very alert to, and we will continue to monitor and react to as attentively as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, very much for your answers. Before moving to the last part of this session, as I have done before, I'm going to read again a number of questions addressed to states not present. Let me start with a question addressed to Egypt from the Cairo Institute for Human Rights, and it reads as follows. What concrete measures has Egypt adopted to ensure compliance with this decision by the Committee Against Torture, including abolition of administrative detention of human rights defenders and safety of NGOs? The next question is for India and is from a human rights defender from Manipur. The person wished to remain anonymous for security reasons. And the question reads as follows. On 4th June 2023, Government of India set up a commission of inquiry to inquire into the causes and spread of the violence which took place in Manipur since 3rd May 2023, and whether there were any lapses on the part of any of the responsible authorities or individuals. When is the report of this commission going to be submitted so that appropriate action can be initiated to address the basic human rights of the hundreds of citizens killed, tens of thousands of citizens still languishing in despicable IDP camps, and the 4 million citizens of Manipur ethnically segregated and living with abject sense of insecurity? The next question is for Iraq and is from the Gulf Center for Human Rights. And the question reads as follows. Those criticizing the government are increasingly targeted through Penal Code Article 229, which criminalizes a broadly defined, I quote, insulting of a public official, and or Article 443, which again broadly defines defamation. Will Iraq commit to stopping the use of these articles to silence peaceful expression, withdraw any pending cases, and release anyone held under them? The next one is addressed to Tunisia from Human Rights Watch, and it reads as follows. Migrants and refugees face serious human rights abuses in Tunisia and lack access to international protection. Will Tunisia, a candidate to the UN Human Rights Council, end its crackdown on migrants, stop criminalizing those helping them, and commit to uphold the right globally? The following one is for Vietnam and is from Alliance for Vietnam's Democracy. And it reads as follows. Independent human rights organizations consistently document that Vietnam holds one of the largest number of prisoners of conscience in the world, including human rights defenders, religious leaders, journalists, and environmental activists. Alarmingly, several such prisoners have died in custody under suspicious circumstances. Most recently, Lay Buddhist Vuong Van died in prison on the occasion of the Vietnamese Communist Party September 2nd holiday. Once again, without transparency or justice. How does Vietnam reconcile this troubling record with its candidacy for membership in the Human Rights Council, whose mandate is to uphold the highest human rights standards? Will Vietnam commit to, number one, conducting thorough, impartial investigation into this death and providing truth and redress to families? Two, immediately releasing all prisoners of conscience. And three, ending the criminalization of peaceful expression of association. So those were the questions addressed to candidate states who are not with us this afternoon. And I think that brings us to the end of the questions that were asked. In principle, we should move now to the concluding part of this segment. If I may, I recognize Pakistan would like to say something. Ask for the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Coordinator. Just an observation. As we see the greatest tragedy unfolding in front of our eyes in the occupied state of Palestine, I just wanted to check whether no civil society organization, no human rights defender, no human rights institution, no state submitted any question on the brutalities being committed on Palestine, or were the questions purposefully not selected for this panel? I thank you.
Yeah, you 5 by 5, not well taken. Thank you. Great, thank you for that. And thanks very much for the candidate state for the response to the very many questions. Excellencies, distinguished delegates and their colleagues, we really hope this discussion has helped all to gain a better knowledge and understanding of the vision of membership and human rights commitment of some of the candidates for the Human Rights Council. We know from past experience that these events promote trust between the Human Rights Council candidate states, civil society, and the UN, and contribute to strengthening international dialogue on human rights. As we continue to address the challenges confronting human rights and the multilateralism in the context of global multiple crises, we trust that this year's exchange has offered the same inspiration and enhanced the spirit of cooperation. So on that note, on behalf of the co-organizers, I thank all candidates for their time and willingness to engage transparently on human rights issues, and the audience for the engaged participation. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a nice rest of the day, what remains in the day. Thanks very much. Hand over to the organizers. Over.